As a lot of you probably know, the Beatles are known as one of the most influential bands of all time, and a large part of that is thanks to their work from 1965 to 1967. Rubber Soul was the beginning of their experimental phase, and of course they were relatively experimental from the start, but songs like Norwegian Wood signaled a different type of experimentation. Revolver, Sgt. Pepper, and Magical Mystery Tour continued this trend, but with the release of the single Hey Jude, it was clear that they weren't that interested in experimentation anymore. But why? This was heavily criticized back then. Actually, the mixed reviews the White Album received weren't only because of its length. A lot of it was also because it completely dismissed all of the experimental work of previous albums. And I can already hear a lot of you saying that there's many songs in that album that are crazier than anything out of Revolver, and it's true, but there's a difference between this and this.
Number 9, number 9, number 9.
We have to remember that even though the psychedelic albums received massive critical acclaim, the recording of these albums, especially the two released in 1967, weren't really fun. To create that type of music, there's a lot of overdubbing and mixing and editing needed, and there's almost no need to actually perform together as a studio band. And even though this is seen as a moment of growth and evolution for the likes of Ringo and George, it was actually the opposite, with the latter saying that in multiple occasions he was bored in many of the recordings. Plus, and I know that a lot of you are not gonna like me saying this, compared to Mothers and the Velvet Underground for example, what the Beatles were doing wasn't really that unique. It was simply easier to sell. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that the experimental phase of the Beatles was just that, another phase. They embraced it, made a couple of great albums with it, and then they moved on in a new direction. But people seem to remember it a bit more because of how influential it was and because of the whole concept of a band impersonating a band.